Is the school system failing your child, but you just don't feel qualified to pull them out? Are you getting IEP violation after IEP violation, but you still don't feel confident enough in your own abilities to homeschool your children? Can I tell you a little secret? You are not different than the 3.7 million families in the United States who are homeschooling their children right now. Just keep pushing these doubts aside and focusing on these 5 things instead. I'm Kimberly, founder of Supporting Autism Mama. Over here on this little corner of the internet, we do not gatekeep our wins as special needs parents. All June long, we've been focusing on homeschooling our special needs children. Today will be the last episode in a 4-part series of how to get started homeschooling your special needs children. All month long, we have been focusing our podcast, our shorts, our reels, our ebooks, our checklist. And last week, we even got to meet with a homeschooling consultant who specifically works with special needs children. If you are thinking about homeschooling your special needs children, this is the month to review all of the things that we've talked about at Supporting Autism Mama. I hope I have made all of the tools to make it possible in your home. So today, instead of the tactics and the systems and all of the things you need in place in order to homeschool, I want to focus on something else. The daunting task that is homeschooling your children, providing them with that education, adding that weight to your already very full shoulders as a special needs parent. If you are toying with the idea of homeschooling this fall, but just don't feel qualified, you're not alone. But here are 5 things I really want you to consider before you quit, before you even get started. Number 1, you know your child better than anyone. You were your child's first teacher. You taught them how to walk. You taught them how to crawl. You might have even taught them their numbers, their colors, how to read. You did so many things before they turned 5 years old. For some reason in the States, when they turn 5 years old, we no longer teach. We decide to throw it to the public school system or the private sector. Whatever it may be, we decide we're no longer qualified to teach our children, even though we have been doing it their whole life. Nobody knows your child like you do. You know their interests, you know their needs, you know what is going to cause a meltdown, what to avoid, and if a meltdown is happening, you know exactly what you need to do in order to get through that. That's something that takes therapists and teachers months to figure out. It's something you already deal with every day and already have a heads up on. My 7-year-old is non-speaking, but I still know most of his needs without him saying any words to me. If I were to take him to school today, it would take a teacher months to be able to figure out exactly what Maxwell needs because he's unable to communicate at this time. We have an AAC device and we're working diligently to get him to use that. It hasn't clicked yet. We've tried sign language, we've tried pet cards, we've tried all these different things. And the only way that this boy can communicate with me is by grabbing my hand and taking me to different places in the room. And just because I'm his mother and we do this routine every day, I'm able to get his needs met. But that might not happen if I send him to school. You know your child better than anyone. You know their cues without them saying any words. And that's huge, especially in our community. Number 2, flexibility is actually a superpower, not a flaw. If you listened to my episode last week where I spoke with Grace, a homeschooling consultant for special needs children, you heard that we talked about one of the benefits of homeschooling is that flexibility piece. Our children often don't sleep well. They often have a hard time with transitions. They sometimes just have days where they're just not able to function outside of our home. Homeschooling allows us to be able to tailor around their specific needs. If they're having a day where we're like, we're not going to get a whole lot done sitting at the table, I'm able to adjust our routine and adjust our schooling, adjust our expectations, and be able to adjust it to whatever my child needs in the moment. If we need a park day, if we need to just go in the backyard and explore the backyard, have a read aloud while we're swinging on our swing, or playing in the cuddle box. Those are things that I can make accommodations for at home that sometimes just isn't possible in the public school system because they educate for a large group of people. They have more than just our child to think about. They have a class of 5, 10, 15, 20, a large group of people to try to educate and try to get their best interests met. When you homeschool, it's one-on-one. I have 4 children, but I still offer one-on-one time with each of those children. And that's because that's just one of the beauties and one of the flexibility pieces of homeschooling. You can adapt lessons, you can adapt your workflow. And my favorite part is I have a game plan for fall already. I have all these ideas and all these things that I want to do. But come December, I bet half of those things didn't happen or we had to reroute and change course. And as overwhelming as sometimes that can feel, I have to remind myself of how big of a blessing that is. How amazing it is to be able to reroute my child's education that quickly, to be able to get their needs met so they can continue to thrive in whatever environment that they are in. And I do not think that's a handicap. I think that that is a great advantage of homeschooling. And another way that you can teach is to just really dive into their special interests. I'm such a big advocate for teaching a child through their special interest. I have an 8-year-old who loves the weather, loves natural disaster. I had such a hard time getting him to sit down and write. They have all these writing prompts, the open and go curriculum, and it was like pulling teeth getting him to sit at the table and write all these writing prompts. Instead, I went to the store, I bought a $1 notebook, put it on the table, and I said, Vinny, you can write whatever you want about the weather today. I just need 3 sentences from you. And he wrote those 3 sentences in 5 minutes. What would have taken an hour took us 5 minutes because it was something he was interested in and something he enjoyed. We still talked about the punctuation. We still talked about grammar mistakes. We still talked about spelling, which some of the words he was spelling were actually probably harder than what was in the open and go curriculum. But when we were still meeting all of the tasks of the lesson, I was just able to tailor it to his special interests. That's one of the amazing benefits of homeschooling. Before you quit, before you give up, remember, you know your child best. Flexibility is a superpower of homeschooling. And number 3, you are allowed to learn alongside your child. I feel like one of the biggest drawbacks that I see with parents homeschooling is they just don't feel qualified. Maybe they have a degree in something else besides teaching. My degree is in nursing. That is not teaching at all. I did not sit down and learn how to create a lesson plan. We talked about pathophys, microbiology, pharmacology. We did not sit down and figure out how to write a lesson plan. However, it's something that I've studied and been able to learn on my journey. When we first started homeschooling, I made sure I researched curriculum after curriculum. I would buy the curriculum and we would not deviate from that lesson plan. If it said do 20 jumping jacks and we were only really in the routine to do 10 that day, we would do the 20 because that's what the paper said. This will be our 3rd full year of homeschooling. And now I can tell you that sometimes I opened up that lesson plan, saw what the topic was, and closed that lesson plan to meet my child's needs. You know your child's needs better than anyone. If you know that they're going to learn their multiplication facts better by writing them on the sidewalk and jumping to each of the facts versus sitting down and doing flashcards or sitting down and writing on the whiteboard, then you already have a heads up. In school, they might not be able to adapt to that. They might not have that adaptive seating or be able to use so many gross motor skills in their education, but you're homeschooling, so you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to learn alongside a child what you're learning, and you're also able to learn how to teach them and how you like to teach the best. Sometimes we would open up the curriculum for the day and start going through the curriculum, and my oldest would get curious about something that was written in them. Maybe it was something about natural disasters or the weather. And so instead of finishing the lesson, we would just dive into that and try to figure out the answer to one of his questions. And in that moment, I'm teaching him to love learning and to continue to learn instead of this is what's on the piece of paper, so this is how we're going to do it. It's okay to learn alongside your child. Curiosity is contagious. The more that you're going to help them learn and develop that love for learning, the more they're going to love it. The more they're going to search and try to develop new skills. Today, while Vincent was playing with his PC, he opened up a Word document and started adding shapes and adding lines and basically doing graphic design on the computer. He just didn't know it was called graphic design. Then we sat down, we talked about graphic design. We looked at different videos about graphic design and maybe if it's something that he's interested in the future. We are always learning and it's okay to figure those things out together. In fact, it's a beautiful thing. Number 4, and this is something that I don't actually need to preach to you if you're a part of the special needs community, but I'm going to anyways. Progress is progress, no matter how small that is. I know that in our community, we do celebrate every milestone. And when you homeschool, you get to do that to a whole new level. And then more than that, if you are having a hard time breaking through that progress and getting to that next step, you homeschool. You can pivot and rebrand and retry again over and over and over. You have control. You get to pivot and try again. If you need a new routine or a place to add sensory breaks, you get to do that. And then when you add those things, you are the one that added those things. You get this sense of pride when you realize exactly what your child needs. Because at that point, it doesn't just go into their education and their academics. It also bleeds over into their activities of daily living, their developmental milestones, their occupational goals, their speech goals. You're able to get these things accomplished because you just unlocked how your child learns best. And that is a beautiful gift. You know your child better than anyone. Flexibility is your superpower. You are allowed to learn alongside your child, and progress is progress no matter how small. The fifth and final thing that I want you to consider before you quit, before you even get started with homeschooling your special needs child, is the connection that you're going to get to develop with your child when you homeschool. When we decided to pull our children out of the public school system, it had been 2 weeks where one of them was sick, then the other one was sick. So for 2 weeks, inconsistently, we did not go to therapy, we did not go to school. We were at home most of those 2 weeks just because of these different things that kept coming up, whether it was family emergencies or sickness, whatever it may be. And after those 2 weeks, I remember looking at my children and just thinking, wow, these kids are acting like kids. They're not overwhelmed from the therapy load that was being placed on them, and then also the academic load. And they were just drained when they got home. They were overstimulated, unregulated. It was just a nightmare. And when they came home, there was no connection being made. They were exhausted. They didn't have time to put in any extra time or any other connections with me. They had used all that energy while they were in school. Now that we homeschool, we have such a great connection. I know their special interests. I know their wants. I know their needs. We are so close as a family. As overwhelming and stressful as that is some days, because we're always together, sometimes I have to remember how grateful I am that we're always together. There was a time when I didn't get to see my children's personality. And now that we homeschool, we were able to take a step back, not only see their personality, but use it to drive their love for learning and use it to figure out what they want to do with their life. Because this is their story to write. This is not my story to write for them. And I want to just be able to give them the tools to get that written. I know homeschooling can feel scary. It can feel overwhelming. You do not feel prepared. I hope that in the month of June, I've given you the tools to help you feel somewhat prepared. I know I'm never going to be able to ease all of your doubts and all of your worries because I still have my own, but I can share with you from one homeschooling mom to hopefully another homeschooling parent. It is scary. It's an extra weight to put on your shoulder, but it also takes off so much weight. They're safe when they're in your home. They are regulated when they're in your home, and you are in charge of their education. As scary as that sounds, that's actually one of the greatest tools you can provide for your child. You get to teach them what they learn. They get to teach you what they learn by understanding that you know your child better than anyone. Understanding that flexibility while we homeschool is a superpower. It's not a flaw. Understanding that it's okay to learn alongside your child in your homeschooling journey. It's actually one of my favorite parts. Remembering that progress is progress no matter how small it is. And that with homeschooling, you can develop an amazing connection with your child. I hope that the next time you have doubts and you have worries, that you think about these 5 things that can change you and your child's life, your connection, and your relationship. That wraps up the month of June and our homeschooling series. I hope that I was able to provide you and your family with all the resources you need to get started. If you're watching this in real time, then make sure to go over and check Instagram, because at the end of each month until December, I'll be having a giveaway. This month's giveaway is all things homeschooling. It's going to be a homeschooling starter kit for a lucky family out there. It's everything that I think you need to get started homeschooling with some extra stuff thrown in there. I've partnered with an amazing brand, and I hope we're able to bring you an amazing gift to your home. If you're interested in that, make sure to go check out my Instagram. I'll link that down below. Down below, I'll also link all of the resources that we have provided this month, as well as all of the podcast episodes about homeschooling, so you can go into the fall of 2025 ready to homeschool your children. As always, if you've liked this video, please consider giving it a like. If you've really enjoyed this content and this podcast, please consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to bring resources like this into your home. And as always, make sure to go follow me over on Instagram so that you can get a glimpse into our everyday life, how we implement these routines, how we homeschool, and other tools and tips that you need in your neurodiverse home. Stay strong out there.